We're here today with Bill Gates. A lot to talk about what he's been working on. And Mr. Gates, thank you so much for being with us. I'd like to talk to you about your approach to vaccinations. You wrote something recently, and like you always do, you kind of looked at the problem from a scientific and business perspective on things. You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that. And it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
Well, it's pretty impressive that when you take these vaccines, get them to be very inexpensive by making big volume commitments, have that right relationship with the private sector, get the delivery system so they're really getting the coverage out there, you literally save millions of lives. And 20 years ago, when we created these new multilateral organizations, Gavi for the vaccines, Global Fund for HIV, TB and malaria, we didn't know they'd be successful. They've gone through lots of challenges about making sure the money gets there, making sure the efficiency is right. But as we look at upcoming replenishments for those, and we've got so much distraction politically that the international needs like this could get eclipsed if we're not careful. You know, we see a phenomenal track record. It's been $100 billion overall that the world's put in. Our foundation is a bit more than $10 billion, but we feel there's been over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything. You just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else. The human benefit in millions of lives saved. So, you know, we're here with a pretty strong message that although all these other issues are very important, let's not forget about the great success in global health and maintaining that commitment.
I think the numbers that you ran through were if you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah. You know, helping young children live, get the right nutrition, contribute to their countries, that has a payback that goes beyond any typical financial return.
Right. Scott Gottlieb, the FDA commissioner, just wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times, I think over this past weekend. And he took a look at it and said, because of all the anti-vaxxers, people who are opposed to this in the United States and other places, but especially in the United States, he's worried that the power of vaccinations is really potentially going to be lost, that it will no longer be the power of vaccinations is really potentially going to be lost, that it will no longer be an effective medical tool if people decide not to get vaccinated because we've forgotten about how terrible some of these diseases are. Do you worry about that?
Well, we often have the challenge that as you get successful, as you get a disease down to very small numbers, people forget. And so they back off. You know, they think, gosh, I heard some rumor, you know, maybe I'll just avoid doing it. And the chance their kids, say, dying of measles is pretty low. But as you accumulate more and more people saying that for whatever reason, eventually then measles does show up, kids get sick, and sometimes they die. In rich countries, the numbers aren't yet very large compared to the literally 300,000 kids worldwide will die of measles. Very little of that is in these countries, but the trend is not a good one. And it is wild that just because you get misinformation thinking you're protecting your kid, you're actually thinking you're protecting your kid, you're actually putting your kid at risk as well as all the other kids around them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, is that crazy? You've almost eradicated polio, and yet we're talking about the resurgence of things like measles and mumps and people dying from the flu because they haven't gotten vaccinated in the United States.
Yeah, the ideal is to eradicate these diseases. Measles is so infectious that will be very difficult to do. So we only have smallpox that got done over 20 years ago. Polio, we're very close. It's taking us a few years longer than we hoped for because Pakistan, Afghanistan, it's turned out to be difficult, but we're intensifying our work there, and we expect in the next couple of years we will get to zero.
I saw something that you tweeted, I think that's where I saw it, about your favorite infographic. It looks at the world over the last 200 years and then takes the world as a population of 100, and breaks down some of the numbers of just how much progress we've made. And I think when people are feeling so pessimistic about things, it's kind of interesting to look back and see. When people are feeling so pessimistic about things, it's kind of interesting to look back and see that. You want to walk through that infographic? I think it had things like extreme poverty has gone from 94 to 10 over the last 200 years. Literacy, where people can actually read, has gone from 12 to 85. I mean, that's kind of phenomenal.
Yeah, the fact that we're so good at focusing on what's not going well means that we often do lose this overall picture. And so there have been some writers. Max Roser's the one who did those charts. Steven Pinker, Hans Rosling in his book Factfulness, who really say, okay, what is your expectation? Is the world improving or not? And then you get very surprised when you see, in terms of the basic things, there is massive improvement. And that, we want to keep that going. We don't want to let the HIV epidemic spread back in big numbers. And yet, the U.S. administration did threaten that they would cut those numbers. So the world is developing. Most of the world 50 years ago was low income. Now most of the world is middle income. Africa is the place where things are still quite difficult. Although we've improved health a lot in Africa, there's big challenges there, particularly with climate change, population growth, and the governance. And so as some of the Asian countries graduate as aid recipients, we'll have more resources to put in Africa, and we're going to have to be very smart about those partnerships.
You've touched on this a couple of times just in the last few minutes, the idea that the world is moving away from some of these ideas. A place like Davos is a festival for the globalists. A few of them have not been able to attend this year, like Theresa May, who's dealing with issues from Brexit, or you have Macron, who's dealing with his own issues with the Yellow Jackets. What have you seen just in the pullback from globalism, the rise of populism? What has that meant in terms of what you can do with your work?
Well, it's a huge concern that the plight of the kids in Africa would be lost in all of the tough issues that people are dealing with domestically. President Macron is hosting in October the Global Fund replenishment, and that's the work for HIV, TB, and malaria. He's recommitted to doing that despite the turmoil. The UK is the biggest donor to the vaccine Gavi work. Their aid budget has actually gone up, and the Prime Minister has been a big supporter of that. So, we in our dialogue with them, they're saying, no, we're not going to let these things take away from our moral commitment and our belief that being a global leader, investing in a stable world is there. But we do worry about it. Concretely, the executive branch in the U.S. wanted a cut, but the Congress, on a very strong bipartisan basis, said no, they're not going to cut these programs.
Although we're now looking at a government shutdown over a battle over the budget, so it's going to get tighter and tighter between the two sides.
No, if that goes on, that just for managing the money that's being spent, you end up doing that very inefficiently.
Finally, you also wrote recently just about how you're able to take a look at what you think you'll be successful with in this career. And you based it on what you used to do in your old career in technology. You said that 90% of the money you spent was not going to be successful, it'd be a waste, but 10% would be hugely successful. You thought the odds of what happened in your current work in philanthropy would be the same. What have you found?
Well, the amazing thing was that we didn't expect to get involved in funding delivery. We thought we'd be upstream, just funding invention. We do that. It's about half of our work. But then when we realized that there were great vaccines that existed that weren't getting out, and until you could show those would get out, there wasn't much motivation to invent new ones. That's where the world came together and created these two new organizations. And since World War II, there have essentially been no new sizable multilateral organizations. And yet people showed faith that there was a need here. And there's been a lot of learning along the way. And so that investment, that $10 billion, which for our foundation is a huge, huge thing. We're very proud of that, proud of the partnerships that have been built around it. It didn't turn out to be that risky because once we got the right expertise, we were able to get these delivery problems largely solved.
Is that fair to say 10%, 90%? Is that kind of what you've seen?
Well, if you're in that upstream, discover a new AIDS vaccine, yes. Now, what you do is you bet on 5 or 6 different approaches so that your chances in aggregate get to be quite reasonable. And so you don't, in that space, want to have a single thing in the portfolio. And across all my work, whether it's energy innovation or educational innovation or health innovation, that big portfolio has been the main way we've dealt with that risk. In the delivery, you can't have multiple bets. You've got to pick a team, get them the right amount of money so they can finance the vaccines, and then you have to have that be a learning group that's taking the new approaches, the new data, and willing to change. And that's the track record that Gavi and Global Fund have developed.
Bill, I want to thank you very much for your time today. Bill Gates of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.